Good morning from Israel in the Galilee. It has been exactly 50 days since a small group of us, understood that the barley was ready to be offered in the temple. And I wanted to bring you out here today to this little area where I planted the wheat, the same wheat that was offered in the first century, and offered for Shavuot, and show you the condition of the wheat. As you can see, it has turned that magnificent color of black, signaling that it would be ready for an offering in the temple. And today is that 50th day, so much of it's ready. Some of it, like every field, will lag behind. So I would just like to say to you, Hag Shavuot Sameach. Oh, isn't the Father glorious? Look at that. I'm telling you that it has been a wild ride following him this year. Look at those. Isn't that beautiful? That's just so beautiful. And this is ready. Of course, I will not harvest it today because it is a rest day. But tomorrow now, I will start taking these grains that are really, 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 really ready, like this one. This one, if I don't take him, he's going to shatter really quick. And there's some more over in there I can see that are about to shatter. So I'll start taking the grains out of here tomorrow and saving them to plant towards next year. I'm going to take you in the village and show you that of the 7 species, we have 3 that tell us that we have the timing correctly on Shavuot. All the 7 species interplay with each other throughout the calendar, and I rely heavily on those to know the timing, just as we know that the barley in the south was ready for our wave sheaf date. We also know that the wheat is going to be ready for Shavuot, and we know that, or I know, my experience tells me, I'm sorry I say we, that's a habit I picked up from my husband, that the pomegranate trees are in bloom now, and the olive trees have just finished their blooming, so we're good. Now I want to show you something. This is going to be maybe a bit controversial, but I don't care. In the New Testament, we were told that the Messiah was going to gather his wheat in his garners and burn up the chaff. Okay, so what are we looking at here? Do you see this wheat? Okay. What's directly behind this? Do you see that busted barley? This barley that's actually past its use? All these stalks of chaff in here. That here's another busted barley. Okay. Do you know, historically in Israel, what the chaff from the barley was used for? The chaff, the stalks of the barley, was used for when the wheat was harvested. It was used for roasting the kernels to make them a roasted grain. And now there's still people in near Nazareth that do this when they harvest their wheat field. Of course, it's not the wild wheat. They'll take the chaff of the barley and they'll roast this, and they make a dish out of the roasted grain. So here's the point. We have dogs. I'll pause it. Okay, it doesn't sound like they're going to shut up much. So here's the point. When he talks about gathering in his wheat and burning up the chaff, you can know that if there was barley growing nearby, or another early grain, which I think they got in some other grains besides just the biblical grains by the 1st century that they were growing for food, although the Bible only speaks about barley and wheat as an acceptable offering. But you can know that it was the chaff that they used to roast the grains. So when he was speaking about this gathering in his wheat and burning up the chaff. He was speaking about the unacceptable barley stalks that had been left from the barley harvest. And you'll have to wait for the book. I'm writing a big book, and it's going to be a free ebook. And as soon as it's out, you can I'll let you know, and you can ask me for a link for the copy. I'll be happy to share it with you. But I want to show you today on this video. We'll go around and we'll look at the other two species that's absolutely ready in harmony with Shavuot, which is today. So again, I say to you, Hag Shavuot Sameach, and may you glory in the bread from heaven, knowing that He's the one who gives life. And that's what this feast is about, the bread from heaven. Okay, so here you're going to see that, take it back small, that I live beside and literally an abandoned olive orchard. These are untrimmed, unkept. Nobody harvests them. Nobody waters them. So let's go see. And I like to use this condition to prove the timing of God, of Elohim on the land. So let's go see what was going on. Last year at Shavuot, these trees were in full bloom. That was the timing. This year, which Shavuot actually came earlier, many people deferred to a 13th month because they didn't feel like Shavuot could be this early in the year. This year, they've already bloomed, and you can see the little olives that are putting on past the little dry, crusty blooms. There are little green olives that are already beginning to form. So that's a second witness. Actually, we have three witnesses. I'll take you to all of them, and I'll give you the verse in Song of Solomon. And here you can see the pomegranate is in bloom, the pomegranate tree. They are in bloom all over the neighborhood. This one is actually in the shade, and it's still in bloom. Okay. Which I do think that Song of Solomon, when it talks about the lily, it talks about a lily and the thorns, and when you go to the understanding in the Strongs, you will see that it says white, and then in ancient Hebrew it talks about the shape of the teeth being white and strong, but from the side, sorry, the buses are going by. From the side, you still see a somewhat of an ancient sheen shape on this bloom. Then the other thing I want to show you is that when there's two places really where the pomegranate was used in ancient Israel. It was on the pomegranate fruit on the hem of the garment of the high priest, and then in between those, they put bells. Let me show you what an unopened pomegranate looks like. That's an unopened pomegranate bloom. They are the shape of a bell. Okay, so, and there's another one. But we have lots and lots and lots and lots and lots that are open. So I do believe that when Song of Solomon talks about the lilies, not of the field, of the tree with the thorn, because the pomegranate does have thorns. The next thing that Song of Solomon says for this season of Shavuot is that we should go to the vineyard and check and see on the vine if the tender grapes are there. Okay, this little vine was on the property when we moved in here, and it was dead and not doing anything. And I went to the internet and read about how to revive an old vine, prayed over it, followed the directions and cut it back severely, and it has burst into life. This is growth from really the first 12 months after cutting it, and it's just doing lovely. It comes from way back in the corner. I can't even show you at this point the trunk. It's about as big around as my arm, so it's an old one. But we have the tender grapes on the vine. So two things. Let me turn the stop there. So two things that I wanted to say to you about this process is that no one can manipulate when these plants do what they do, especially the plants that I look at. Even my olive vine, I'm sorry, my grapevine over there, even it is not watered. Okay, I determined at the point when I cut it back that it would only be taken care of by me in the pruning. I am going to plant some hyssop over there. We've got all kinds of wild hyssop around here. I did read on the internet that hyssop is a great companion plant for the olive vine. Imagine that here in Israel, we have hyssop and olives growing together. Who knew, right? Anyway, so it's a great companion plant for the olives, and it enhances their flavor. So I am going to try to get some hyssop growing around the base of the olive tree. I'm not the olive, the grape vine. Once I get it going, I'll never have to do it again. It'll reseed itself. Again, everything I'm looking at has not been managed by anybody, watered by anybody. What's happening is happening because the rain from heaven have managed it, and the God in heaven has caused it to bring forth fruit. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I believe that the truest witness of the biblical calendar comes from the interaction of his 7 species. For example, when we look at first fruits of barley, the New Testament says that in summer the fig tree puts on its tender leaves. Well, if you know the etymology behind the word summer in Hebrew, you see it's harvest. It says when the fig tree puts on its leaf, that you know that summer, and let's say harvest, is nigh, even at the door. So the Messiah was the first fruits offering for the week of unleavened bread, and this year we absolutely, as we approached that wave sheaf date, had the fig leaves absolutely budding out everywhere here in the north. The other thing that we can count on is that the grapevine will bloom. Now, it's not one of the 7 species, but we know we're required to have lambs for the night of Pesach. So, and those will happen too. So these are within the Bible clear and strong directives that we have to understand the timing of his calendar. And every year I'm here, I learn more. This year, the Song of Solomon that I was telling you about, it really taught me a lot about the timing of this. In fact, I'll close the video with reading this to you. Hold on, let me go get it. Okay, so tomorrow I will go out to the field and show you the mandrakes, but today, since it's Shavuot, I'm not going to do any traveling unnecessarily away from the house. The verse I was telling you about is Song of Solomon 7:11. Knowing the 7 species, how they interact together, and the timing that they do their interaction on the land tells us exactly the timing of this passage in Song of Solomon chapter 7:11. Come, my beloved, and let us go forth into the field. This would be the wheat field because of the timing of the rest of the verse. Let us lodge in the villages. Let us get up early to the vineyards, grapes, and see if the vine flourishes, whether the tender grapes appear. They have appeared. The pomegranates bud forth. They've budded forth. There I will give thee my loves. The mandrakes give a good smell. At our great gates are all manner of excellent fruit of excellent. It says fruit added, but it does mean fruit old and new, which I have laid up for thee, O my beloved. Now we'll show you that the field is wheat, because when we look at this word mandrake, I'll put it right here, and we do a search, we're going to find out in Genesis 30 that Reuben went in the days of the wheat harvest and found mandrakes in the field and brought them into his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, give thee, I pray thee, of thy mandrakes. Okay, so everything that we saw right back here in Song of Solomon has to do with exactly this time of year, has to do with the time of Shavuot.